Welcome to the Cure to AI Imposter Syndrome presentation by BakerHostetler. We're going to start with Thoreau's Law. If you see a man approaching you with the obvious intention of doing you good, you should run for your life. So take everything that I say here with a grain of salt. Appreciating, though, that AI imposter syndrome is an issue that many of my friends, colleagues, and clients have had to confront in an area of dramatic and increasing change. We've seen some reactions already to the uses of these technologies and the manner in which they should be used in organizations. Likewise, if you want to skip ahead, appreciate that Wadsworth Constance says that the first 30% of any presentation can be skipped because it actually doesn't contain worthwhile or interesting information. All of that said is we're going to talk about these 5 types of issues with AI imposter syndrome, starting with the perfectionist, the superhuman, the natural genius, the soloist, and the expert, and we'll go through them quickly as we have limited time. And if you're wondering which one you might belong to, which of these cohorts, most fall within this perfectionist 42%. Then we've got the expert with 21%, the natural genius at 19%, the soloist with 12%, and of course the superhuman with 6%. So are you a perfectionist? Well, if so, you might be setting incredibly high standards for yourself, often to the point where nothing you achieve ever feels good enough. It's one of those issues where if I don't give 110%, I'm a failure, and mistakes are unacceptable. Any error equals imposter. It's simply not the case with AI. AI, in fact, is interesting as a technology because it doesn't provide perfect results. As a matter of fact, being skeptical of AI results and even the use of these technologies is a superpower in and of itself. You've got an opportunity here to cast doubt upon the outputs of these technologies to make sure that they actually match with what those expectations should be. You're not alone. There was a recent article in the Wall Street Journal that suggested that those people more familiar with the technologies were actually less likely to use some of them. And that's an appreciation or realization that there are some limitations, often very dramatic ones, with the uses of these technologies. Likewise, the superhuman. Here you're trying to juggle roles and responsibilities while striving to excel in everything. You might hear statements like, I must succeed in everything, I'm failing if I can't do it all, and nothing is everything. That equals the imposter issue. Well, here too, AI is a tool. It's not meant to take over all of the opportunities and work requirements, but by the same token, we do want to use it intentionally. I think there's an appreciation that many of these tools are having AI added into them regardless of intent on the purchaser. Sometimes it's seen as a value add, where this is just a natural development of the tools. So you have to appreciate you don't have to be perfect with it. You don't have to do everything, but you should be leaning into these technologies to understand them, even if you're skeptical, and that skepticism may be very healthy. Likewise, some people feel as though they have to be a natural genius, that competency should come naturally and effortlessly. If I'm really good at this, it wouldn't be so hard, or I'm not smart enough for this. Therefore, if it's not easy, you must be an imposter. And of course, that's not correct either. There are challenges here. And again, these technologies are not exactly easy, and there should be a backstop of questioning the output, of evaluating them. And that arc of evaluation should begin from the initial implementation of these technologies, regardless of whether they're intentionally acquired by an organization or you stumble upon it because you've got an instance of technology where AI is added as an update or upgrade that seeks to support a year-over-year increase in price. And in those instances, you should take time. You should be skeptical, and while you're leaning in, lean in slowly and evaluate it according to certain criteria. Remember here, too, that if it seems too easy, the odds are greatly against you being immensely smarter than everyone else in your field. For example, if your analysis says that your terminal velocity is twice the speed of light, you may have invented the warp drive, but the chances are a lot better that you're simply wrong. So if it seems too easy, it probably was too easy, and you want to step back and reevaluate the situation. Perhaps you're a soloist. You prefer to work alone and you struggle to ask for help. I should be able to do this on my own, and asking for help means that I'm incompetent. That's not the case either. The opportunities for human involvement here are going to be critical. And in looking at these AI technologies, you want to involve your colleagues. Do what we call the straw poll. Ask questions. I've seen some technologies and their creators say that these AI uses are only supposed to be as good as asking someone down the hall. This is not necessarily causing expert systems to appear with this type of general AI intelligence. Instead, it is sampling and looking. And if you've got questions about output, as I've seen, I had a colleague last week really questioned, saying, hey, the AI was saying something different than what my, in this case, months of research had indicated. And while they eventually came to an appreciation of their approach, they still questioned that. And don't feel bad if you are questioning it, and if you are struggling, look for opportunities to ask for help and embrace that human portion of this process. Likewise with the expert, you always need to learn more before starting a project or adding to a discussion. When I've presented on this topic before, this is the point that seems to have resonated the most with people involved in the field. They look at this and say, well, I don't know enough to be considered an expert. I need more training before I can take on this role. It's always tomorrow that's going to be the right time. But guess what? It doesn't necessarily get easier tomorrow. And over the arc of this presentation, we're talking here about taking those opportunities when they come, not letting perfection stand in the way. This is an area that everyone is learning. There's nobody with 20 years of experience with generative AI. It just simply doesn't work. And a lot of people are learning as they go. We have a whole set of digital natives coming through the ranks now that are speaking to the next generation of these technologies. And they're not hesitating. They're running in full bore. Those people who are going to be best situated, of course, to help with these technologies and their intentional and really solid and defensible uses are going to be those people who have the years of experience already, who are going to be able to evaluate these technologies and see if they work the way in which they're supposed to. So, all of this said, don't hesitate in starting to utilize these technologies, but do hesitate in using them for 100% of the tasks or using them without doubt. It's that skepticism, it's the evaluation of the output that's really going to speak to this. And many of the standards in the US and abroad really speak to those specific points, which is the technologies are available for use. There may be some very compelling uses and benefits for using them. However, we want to take these opportunities to also think critically about their implementation, about their uses of personal information, and perhaps most importantly, their outputs. Building up documentation and programs that are meant to constrain some of those uses while we start to see both how the technologies work better, but also their effects. So thank you so very much for your close attention to this pretty quick run through AI imposter syndrome and why it may not just be you. You can feel free to reach out to me at BakerHostetler. I do a weekly email on these topics. Please connect on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to have you join and work through all of that. If you have any other questions, there are a variety of terrific resources associated with AI to help combat some of that imposter syndrome. The IAPP has a certification program called the AIGP, which speaks to professionals within this space that are trying to develop credentials and additional evidence or artifacts of their experience. Likewise, a number of the standard setting bodies, including the NIST AI Risk Management Framework and ISO 42001, are available in different forms online, which can speak to some of the ways in which the United States is starting to deal with AI programs, documenting them appropriately, and providing, again, those artifacts of compliance in cases where one of these technologies creates some challenges. In the European Union, of course, you have the EU AI Act and its progeny, And around the world, we have different standards and approaches. But AI as a technology has a tendency to ignore borders in a lot of instances, and many individuals work in multinational organizations that, again, end up with data use and technology uses that span the globe and ignore sometimes some country boundaries. So it is one of those situations where we're all working together. And again, a healthy dose of skepticism, regardless of the technology and its approach, is helpful. Thanks again.